Good morning. I'm joined today by Bryony Widdup, a partner at Hogan Lovells law firm and co-head of Sustainable Finance and Investments. Welcome, Bryony. And Bryony has co-written our report, Advancing Net Zero, the EU and the UK in International Climate Action Forums. So thank you, Bryony, for being with me today. So tell me, how are the UK and the EU collaborating to try and deliver some consistency in terms of things like disclosure rules and clarity for investors and corporates?
So we've obviously assessed a number of these international climate action forums, and they are a great venue for creating this collaboration between different jurisdictions. So I think it's important to think about, the consequences of zero collaboration. I think we accept that, there are going to be diversified standards and requirements, including on disclosure and reporting in different jurisdictions. But if you're a cross-border business or you, have a cross-border investment program, it's going to, at best, massively slow you down if there isn't a pathway for consistency and clarity as to how you can operate within those varying standards. And in the worst case scenario, it's going to stop your project from being able to function or operate altogether. So we obviously can't, leave that situation just kind of hanging without collaboration. So these forums are really important for discussion, for doing projects like mapping, interoperability mapping. And we've got to, I think, understand that as standards and requirements proliferate, which, in itself, you might argue that, do we need this many different standards on this many different themes and topics? I mean, that is a question that definitely needs to be asked, because over complexity is another way in which businesses and investors, can basically be faced with barriers that they just can't overcome. But we obviously do need standards and requirements. Managing greenwashing risk, making sure that the targets and priorities of governments are effectively implemented in the real world. You do need a lot of sort of detail around that, and so if you accept that you need that detail and that there are going to be different standards, then the way in which you can create effective collaboration is to map interoperability, and also to make sure that when you're designing new requirements or standards, or perhaps, for example, in the case of the SFDR, you're moving on to like a version 2.0 of something that's pre-existing, you make sure that you have the right conversations with the relevant jurisdictions around you to map where the differences are, and perhaps take that as an opportunity to achieve greater harmonisation, or if that's not possible, to design what you do next in a way that at least maps onto different standards that are elsewhere, even if you're not actually harmonising and taking the same standards on board.
And how optimistic are you that firms will at least feel that the regimes, whether it's the SFDR disclosure regime for financial firms or corporate reporting, that they feel they are aligned at least in this time zone?
I mean, no, I think at the moment people feel completely overwhelmed in a soup of standards. But what I think is encouraging, we heard today, for example, about the Transition Planning Task Force's design principles. And the design principles took TCFD and ISSB, and they looked to develop transition planning guidance that already embedded the relevant aspects of those reporting standards that related to transition in developing the Transition Plan Task Force guidance in the first place. And that kind of intelligent, interoperable, design-led approach, that's got to be some of the way forward. It's got to give some encouragement to businesses and to investors that some of this complexity can start to be solved.
I hope you're right, Bryony. Thank you very much.
Thank you.